So welcome back to my micro shop. Today I'm going to try to build 5 different types of box joints just to see which one will look good, which one will look bad, and which one will just turn out ugly. By the end, you'll know which joint I would trust the most to hold things together and which one I may never try again. So why box joints? Because in woodworking, almost everything starts out with a box. Look around my shop. This is a box, and this is a box. And I bet if you look around your house, you'll find more boxes than you think. This is a box, this is a box, this is a box, and this is a box. And when I built our travel van, I needed a tough little box to store our shower head so nobody could see it when not in use. Anyway, after many long late night YouTube binges, I landed on using rabbet joints. Supposedly one of the strongest joints there is. Well, 2 years, thousands of miles, and more than a few rough roads later, it's still rock solid. So for this video, let's build 5 different boxes with 5 different joints and one I've never even tried before. So if you're ready, let's go. Before we get started, I thought I would discuss a little bit of aesthetics. Well, there's no standard rule for boxes. There is a 1, 2, 3 rule that seems to be prominent out there. So whatever your height is number 1. Number 2 is your depth. And then the length is 3. So if you had 2 inches here, this would be 4 inches, and then this would be 6 inches. Not sure if that helps you any, but I thought at least I would like to share that with you. Second thing that I learned later is that the grain pattern is also just as important. It's a lot nicer when your wood grain is going this way versus if it was going this way. But for now, we're gonna start by cutting ourselves some blanks. So I'm going to use this very simple cross-cut sled. It's very easy to make depending on which miter slot I put it on. So here I get 90 degrees. Here I get 45 degrees. So, but for today, what we're going to do is we're gonna cut these in 6 inches strip. Early on in my journey, one of the things I learned is that consistency is more important than accuracy. So if you are cutting this to 6 inches like I'm trying to do now, and let's just say you miss, then it's a less, maybe 5 3/4. You could, instead of trying to recut everything, you can just cut everything else into 5 3/4. Again, to keep consistency, I'm going to tape all of them together. When you are cutting a cross cut, make sure this is far away from it. This can cause it to kick back on you. And there we have 10 pieces of 6-inch length. Next, I need to do exact same thing, but with 4 inches for our sides. Ow. If you notice something, I only measured the first cut. The second and the third cut will all be based on the second one. So whatever size I cut this, I don't know if I got it right or wrong, then at least all of them will be the same. And I don't pre-mark all of them because each one there's something called a kerf, which is the size, the width of the blade. So if you go through and cut all of them right away, you will end up short. And there you go. We have our materials. So let's start with the first one, the easiest one, and that is called a box joint. Now, a box joint actually also presents its own dilemma. You can make the boxes this way, where these are on the outside, or you can make the boxes this way. If I do it this way, this is actually 7 inches wide. But I get my 4 inches. But if I move this way, now I'm actually getting my 6-inch width, but instead of a 4-inch depth, I'm now getting a 5-inch depth. So take that into account when you're doing things. So the simplest way of connecting these is with either a nail or a screw. This is not necessary, but it's always nice to do. If I just take this and drill it in, there's a good chance I'm going to split the wood because I am so close to the edge. So instead, I am going to take this and do a pre-drill. Okay, an easier way of doing this, clamping them together, is finding yourself a nice vise. Make sure it's flat. Off camera, I pre-drilled this and I made it stick out a little bit. I'm now going to line this up. Take my handy dandy mallet, take it out. You can now see there's two indented screw indentation in there, and do another bit of a pre-drilling. I know this is a bit complicated, or it looks complicated, but it really isn't. Once you get used to the process, it gets much faster. And there you have it, um, nice and screwed in. It has a nice little butt joint. Now unfortunately, you can see it's really ugly because it's all sticking out like this. This is what's called a countersink bit. Now there's multiple different versions of this. There's this kind, there's this kind, um, there's this kind. So they all work about the same. Just figure out which one works best for you. It gives a place for my screw head to go in. Now that I've countersunk the holes, I can go back in to the same holes that I had previously and countersink them in. So now it could use to go in a little bit more, but you can see it's much nicer. But in essence, this is the basic premise of a butt joint. And there you have it, a nice simple box. So for our next box, we will be adding miters to each one of these. So I'm breaking out my crosscut sled and let's go. So now we've cut miters on all of our pieces, and now let's figure out what size we ended up with, a 6x4 box. A really interesting technique I learned for making gluing up miter joints. You line them up, painter's tape again. As you can see, this is a very valuable tool. You flip them over. Now, you use a glue. Now the circus trick. Flip it that way, flip it that way, and flip it that way. Then take another tape. It's going to listen to me and tape them together. And voila! So for our third box, we'll be doing something called rabbet joint. So for that, we're back in the table saw. I am going to switch out my plate for a 0 clearance plate. This, since we're working with very small, very small pieces, I don't want my pieces or offcuts to fall inside it. We will be marking the width of our piece here. That side. And we're doing the same thing on the other side. Again, try not to measure. Try to use the materials themselves to get your final measurement. Let me explain what I'm about to do. I am going to take this and cut only about half of the width of, or half the depth of this piece, and do the exact same thing here. I'll be making multiple passes because my blade is thin, so I will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts until I clear out both sides, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Make sense? That's boogie. And there we have it. So this is what's known as a rabbet joint. What we've done is we created enough space in here, but only half of the material. And so what it will allow us to do is put this next to each other like this. The reason this is much stronger is because now you have two sides of glue rather than the normal one. Now sometimes things get left over from the cut, and nothing a good chisel doesn't help clean up. So now, again, you can see it fits perfectly nice like that. And so let me glue it up. Again, make sure it's square. This is actually now 6.5 this way, so a little bit wider, and 4 inches this way. So you can see that each one of these techniques create, even though you started with all the same materials, they all create different width and lengths. For our next box, we're gonna do what's called a quarter technique. It is actually a combination of a dado and a rabbet. Dado and rabbet and a groove are pretty much all the same. It's just where they are. A dado is when you cross and there's both sides material. A rabbet is at the end, and a groove is when it goes parallel to the grain. Need to put our fence back on. For the front sides, again, we're gonna make a dado on each end, but on the sides, um, we are going to put rabbets. It's getting a bit too close for comfort, and this will protect the beauty of my natural fence, and I'll just keep it from getting hit, accidentally getting nicked. Now, you saw me do a rabbet with a cross-cut sled, and you saw me do a rabbet with this method. So there's two methods in doing it. Now I'm going to put dados on these two. So there we go. If we did this right, you will see that we have two dados here on each side, or four dados on each end of them, and then we have four rabbets on these sides. And you basically take each one and you do it like a puzzle. There we go. Fits perfectly, very nice. And my understanding is this can also be called a reverse rabbet. Not quite sure. If anybody knows, please comment down below, because I've heard it called so many different things. But again, easy enough. All we got to do is, now it's much easier because it's perfectly square all the time. 7 3/8. 7/3 is perfect. It is 6 inches wide, how we like it, and then 4 3/8. I kind of expected 4.5, but close enough. 4 3/8 depth. So now we go back to our old friend, the glue. So for our next box, we're gonna require to build the jig. Grab any scraps you have. You need to get this about as high as slightly over. Doing a cut. Now we need to find some offcuts. I have a few of these that would, oh, well, that came off easy. That would fit inside here. If I can find one that fits inside here. Wow, wunderbar. So unfortunately, it looks like I'm out of CA glue. So I'm gonna have to use wood glue. So bugger, I messed up. I did it in the wrong order. Well, nothing we can't not fix. After we put in the first cut with the stick, with the spacer, what we want to do is use the same thickness, push it as close as we can to it. Now we screw it on in. Now we're gonna take two edges, right? And first thing we gotta do is make ourselves a little mark on top. Remember these marks? They have to always be facing the blade. So you don't want to do it this way, or yet you want to do it this way. So let's make some cuts. The next step is to take this, and remember that little line we put in here? We're going to flip it around, face this way, and now we're going to put the first slot in, back in, and then we're going to take the one that we marked right here, and we're going to make it face this way, and then put it next to it and start making cuts. Unfortunately, that was a fail. My finger joints, while they look very pretty, that they're all nice and cut, and actually one tooth fell off. I think I made it a little bit too thin, and I think when I was trying to mark this space and I was screwing the back of it in, I must have nudged it, so this spacing here is a little bit bigger than what I needed to do. And what that caused was the fact now they don't fit. So I would consider that a fail. Here is what we've done today. We talked about the butt joints. We talked about the miter joint, which came out really nice, I have to say. I think this is one of my better miter joint ones. We talked about the rabbet joints, and we talked about the reverse rabbet, also maybe known as quarter, quarter, quarter. Again, if somebody knows, please let me know. And then we tried to do what's called the finger joint, which was a giant fail. Okay, so I have to say, I vote that this is the good. Of course, this is the bad because it failed. And I have to say, this is the ugly. I think this one came out the worst. So these two were nice. So there you have it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Let me know down below which one you like best, which one you hated worse. Don't worry, you won't hurt my feeling. Again, if you enjoyed this content, you want me to keep making stuff like this, please like and subscribe. Tells YouTube to keep showing this to people. And again, please let me know in the comments what you would like me to try to do next. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.